Hello everyone, I'm Zath and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be my June manga haul. At this point I feel like I should call it my Golden Kamuy and other manga haul. I just can't stop reading that series. I finally was able to get my hands on a volume that I had been looking forward to reading, so I was pretty happy about that. Now sit back, relax, and without further ado, let's talk about some manga. Deko-Boko Bittersweet Days by Atsuko Yusen. This is a sequel to the Deko-Boko Sugar Days, which is probably my favorite Tokyopop title at the moment. So I was very excited when I heard the sequel was being published, and now I'm finally able to get my hands on it. This volume continues the story of Yujiro, a short, tough judo captain, and his tall, happy childhood friend Ryu. In the previous story, they finally confess their affection for one another, and this volume shows their continued romance and the trials they face as graduation and their future together takes on new challenges. These two are so sweet together. I don't want to spoil what happens this volume, but I'm so happy I was finally able to read it. I was also able to pick up the extra story that was published in digital format called Deko-Boko Sugar Days. Extra. Boys enjoy your youth. This side story isn't pertinent to the overall plot, just a couple of steamy scenes with our main characters. Please do not read either title if you are not of age, as these BL titles are for mature audiences only. Golden Kamuy, Volume 12, Volume 13, Volume 14, Volume 15, Volume 16, and Volume 17. I don't even know what to say about Volume 12, but I'm just going to show you some panels, and if these don't convince you to read the series, I don't know what will. The revelations in Volume 14 were shocking, and I couldn't stop reading. So much was happening in these volumes. Ogata is one of my favorite characters, despite everything that happens. He's just cool in his cold, angsty boy way. So I really liked the cover of Volume 17, with a nice little dark detail in the back there. You've heard me say before, but I'll say it again, read Golden Kamuy. Butterflies Flowers by Yuki Yoshihara. I'm not gonna lie, I almost put it down after reading the first page. It was very jarring, and even as a terribly aged joke, it didn't sit well with me at all. But I've been in search for a good shoujo series, and I figured I'd press forward. The story is about a woman named Choko Kazu, who grew up in a wealthy family. However, her family eventually went bankrupt and had to get rid of their servant staff. Now, as a grown woman, she is hired as an office worker with a boss who turns out to be the son of her family's chauffeur and a good friend growing up. What I really didn't like was the borderline harassment and yelling that took place, and maybe because a toxic work environment hits a little too close to home for me, which is why it stood out so prevalently. The last page of the volume did have me feeling positive enough to continue on with the series. I'm always a sucker for class divides as well as adult protagonists, so I hope the series continues to improve. And I really need to find a new shoujo series to sink my teeth into in between volumes of My Love Mix-Up. Black Clover Volume 29. Nak is in dire straits as he battles two supreme devils, but knows he can't win. We also get to see his past and some things that happened to him and his brother that was mentioned in the previous volume. And honestly, it was a pretty good explanation and story. Switching gears from serious situations, I find it hilarious when people are like, "Oh no, they have so much magic!" And Asta is like, "You're probably awesome, but I can't sense magic, so I can't really tell." Magnus shows up to help Jack with the help of Zora, which is nice to see. They come up with a new technique that helps him stand on equal footing with stronger opponents. I really like Magna, and after being shunned due to his lower mana, it's nice to see him back. Can't wait for the next volume to see how that fight goes down. Cherry or Cherie, My Destiny by Okoge Makino. This was a really cute one-volume BL story about a pastry chef named Sakura who focuses on Western-style desserts, and grows jealous when he hears compliments coming from a nearby Japanese confectionery. He decides to go himself and see just how good these Japanese desserts are compared to his. When the owner, Shojiro, claims he hasn't tried any Western-style sweets, Sakura makes it his mission to prove his sweet superiority and make Sojiro fall for his delicious chocolates. Unfortunately for Sakura, he gets it a little over his head when he starts falling for Sojiro. The story is as sweet as its main character's deserts. It's a lighthearted read with 2 likable main characters. There's also a little steamy bonus story at the end. The art style is really cute and works well with the story's theme. I've tried several Tokyo BLs lately that didn't seem to be as good as I thought they would, but I really liked this one. I Cannot Reach You, Volume 1 and Volume 2 by Mika. Childhood friends Yamato and Kakeru can't be more different. Yamato is smart, tall, and good at almost anything he does, while Kakeru is short, not very popular, and doesn't excel at anything. Despite that, they've always been together. Most people think Yamato is always serious or angry due to his apathetic expression, and Kakeru sets off to try to promote his friend and show other people what a terrific guy he is. After a conversation, Kakeru suspects that Yamato may like him, but then backtracks and doubts himself. He doesn't see any reason a guy like Yamato would be interested in a plain-looking guy like him. You poor child. This story is your typical miscommunication and friends keeping secrets from one another, but there is also another layer to it. Yamato tells himself that he's fine as long as Kakeru is by his side, but there is also a part of him that wants to tell Kakeru. I am ready for the slowest of burns here. From the first 2 volumes, it looks like we might be here for a bit, but I think that's okay. The pacing in the story makes it very believable. I also like the artwork and how expressive each character could be. We also get some color pages at the start, as well as extra stories and comics, which is always nice to have. The mangaka did a terrific job. I also really like the cover layout of Volume 1. It's so peaceful and nice. It has to be one of my favorites from this haul. If you're wanting to pick up a slow burn series without forced drama, I recommend giving this series a read. Sayonara Game by Yu Midaduki. This 1-volume series is published in English by Sublime. Normally, anytime you combine romance and a sport, I really want to read the story on the basis alone. However, this story really doesn't talk about baseball. The story is about a man named Arima who asks his old baseball junior, Yosuke, to tutor his sister. Yosuke agrees, but hardly ever talks or looks at Arima. One day, Arima has a feeling that Yosuke likes him, and through roundabout ways tries to figure out if it's true. Spoiler, Yosuke has been crushing on him since he stood up for him in a misunderstanding in their baseball club. The story isn't bad per se, but it felt as though I've read this same plot before. It lacks depth that makes me enjoy other stories and encourages me to give them a better review. The characters were very generic and seemed like they could be replaced with any other and the story would be the same. It is unfortunate since I really did want to dive into this single volume series. Overall, I would recommend picking up other BL titles before this one. Wotakoi, Love is Hard for an Otaku, Volume 6. This is the last volume to wrap up this series, and surprisingly enough, there were several different cover variations released specifically for stores like Barnes & Noble's, Books A Million, and Kinokuniya, alongside the regular edition. I picked up the Barnes & Noble edition, but I would have liked to get my hands on the cute covers from the other retailers. Alas. The final volume wraps up the series nicely for each character's story. Narumi finally admits to her other friends that she's an otaku and finds out that it's not a big deal anymore. Which is definitely something most of us can relate to. I remember a time where watching anime and reading manga was frowned upon. Overall, this series was enjoyable. I can't say that it's my favorite rom-com, but definitely worth the read. We also get several really nice color pages, including the first chapter, character art, and a foldout in the back. And that's gonna do it for my June manga haul. Sorry this was a little bit late, but thank you so much for watching. As always, if you have any opinions on these series, or any additional recommendations for new ones I should check out, let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. I'm Zath. Have a good day.